This week on Capitol Report, what did we learn from Connecticut's presidential primary from the uncommitted?
We're intending this to be a wake-up call to Biden.
It's your wake-up call, pal. Go to work.
I don't think this is an election that the public is getting excited about.
Ready to party with the best of them.
Plus, a look behind the bill to eliminate the car tax that didn't even make it to a vote.
We all know this is really, people hate the car tax.
Okay, I've had just about enough of this.
It's not going to help those that own homes.
Also, while one husky stays home,
Stay, good dog.
another husky takes heat for comments about New York's capital city.
Ooh, Albany, really?
Don't mess with the Empire State. Capitol Report starts now. Welcome to Capitol Report. I am Tom Dudchik. We are so glad you're spending part of this Sunday morning alongside the power panel. The great mayor of Bloomfield, Connecticut, Danielle Wong, joins the panel. Joe Arasimowicz, former Speaker of the House.
Good morning.
Are you removing lampposts at your house, Joe?
Of course.
Liz
Ritter may come by.
Republican strategist.
Good morning.
And Johnny Mac, who has no lamppost in front of him.
No lamppost, but I'm going to dress up as Jonathan the Husky.
All right, guys. Wow. Hey, let's get it going here. So last Wednesday was the 2024 presidential primary day in Connecticut. Let's just say voter turnout was a little slim. That was expected with President Biden and Donald Trump having their party's nominations sealed. Headline of the day was the number of those who decided to vote uncommitted on the Democratic side to send a message to the president about his response to Israel's war in Gaza. 11.5% checked the uncommitted box. And while those behind the movement were satisfied with the idea of sending a message, some leading lawmakers had different views on the matter. Take a listen.
You can be uncommitted today, but in November, you got to take a stand. And President Biden is certainly imposing increasing pressure on Israel.
We know that the vast majority of Democrats want to see an immediate and permanent ceasefire in Gaza, as do the majority of Americans, but Biden hasn't been listening to us. Voters want to see a foreign policy that centers life, not death and genocide. I don't want Trump to win in November, but in order for that to happen, we need Biden to shift policy towards Israel, to stop supporting the genocide in Israel.
Mayor Danielle Wong, I'm part of the Democratic panel here. Hey, in New Haven, uncommitted, 21% of the vote, 758 Democrats. Statewide, over 7,000 registered their protests. How does this affect November?
Well, I think that it shows that Democrats are not just getting in line behind Biden, and they have used this particular occurrence in an organized protest vote to send a message to the Biden administration to say, you need to do these certain things, you need to push this certain policy, or you may not be successful this coming general election. I think there's more time. I think the Biden campaign, like I said a few weeks ago, they have heard the concerns, and they are moving in that direction to appeal to the voters. Is it going to be enough? I think it will be, and they just have to continue to put their shoulder to the wheel and get the message out.
And we talked about this a couple weeks ago. It was a little heated. We're going to keep talking about it. It's a very important theme for me as we go into this election. To the woman who led the charge for uncommitted to affect the policy on Israel, my honest answer is, if you want a ceasefire, release the hostages, Hamas surrenders, we have a ceasefire immediately. Having said that, we've seen the Biden administration come out just this week with a sea change, saying if Israel doesn't change its policy, we're going to change U.S. policy towards Israel. Honestly, I'm outraged by that. I am disgusted by that. And this is the coming age of the new Democratic Party. Are they going to listen to the people, again, who are supporting Hamas, who are anti-Israel, or are they going to stand with one of our best and strongest allies in the world? That is a huge issue in this election cycle?
I think you're going to have both, John. I think you can do both. I think what was important about the primary that occurred is Biden did get the message. We saw this week he came out, he had that very difficult phone call with Netanyahu and really laid it out there what he expects to happen. There was the slightest bit of a threat in there that we'll have to reassess what our support is moving forward. But it is an important message. We all look over there, and on both sides, Israeli, Hamas, people should not be dying. We need to figure this out. And when you saw those aid workers killed, it just broke everybody's heart. Here are people over there trying to feed people, and their vehicle gets bombed. And maybe mistakes do happen in war, but we just can't have that. We have to reset. We have to get to the tables. The hostages do have to be released, and there has to be a two-state solution.
Yeah, again, just to underscore what John said, this ends right now. Hamas started this with a terrorist attack on October 7th, and it ends right now when they release the hostages and they surrender. And this is over, period, full stop. I think this also brings to light a much bigger issue and something that the Biden administration has really failed on, which is foreign interference in our elections. And Iran, particularly, has a great interest in continuing to advocate against Israel in our elections. And I think the Biden administration has done nothing to stop that. And we're going to continue to see that become an issue as we head into the general election because nothing has been done.
All right, guys. Well, Liz's pal, Minority Leader Vin Candelora, the Candyman, had some thoughts on the Republican nominee, Donald Trump. Well, listen to this one.
There are Republicans that are concerned with having Trump on the ballot again. In a state like ours, we believe it hurts Republicans. But then there's others that feel that he is still the outsider that could help turn this country around. All the issues that are important to people, you know, that President Trump delivered on. So I think people want the policies. They don't want the person. That's what they struggle with.
That's the easy one for you, Joe.
Vinny's dead right, but it's not just the person, it's the lunacy that goes along with the person. It's how he activates the craziest of crazies to go out there and do the bidding. You look at the attacks at the FBI headquarters, you look at the threats towards the judge. Okay, you can say he's not exactly saying it, he's hinting at it, he's whispering it. He is not fit to be on the ballot. And I'm fearful that somehow he could end up as president. It shouldn't happen in politics. Regardless of the policy, you cannot have an unstable individual in the White House, and that's what he is.
You know what's interesting to me? This is exactly a redo of the 2016 election. You see an apathy among voters overall. They don't like either choice for president. And you see Democrats continue to talk down to voters across the country who are hurting, and they're being ignored by the President of the United States, and they're being ignored by the Democrat Party. When you look at Connecticut's turnout in 2016, it was about 76%. In 2020, it was 80%. I think you're going to see a much closer electorate to 2016. We see that already in the turnout results in the primary. And that spells big trouble for Democrats, not just in Connecticut, but across the country.
All right, guys, topic 2, the issue of election integrity coming up yet again last week. The day before primary day, Republican leaders pushed for measures to secure Connecticut's elections to prevent voter disenfranchisement. Hey, he puts these words in here. On the heel of Bridgeport's absentee Dropbox fiasco, they released new proposals surrounding absentee ballots, ID rules, getting rid of drop boxes, and stiffer penalties for actors. And I even practiced this.
Despite all of this attention to this issue, the Democrats that we serve with here in Hartford have failed to take the issue seriously enough and put the proper protocols and policies in place to fix it.
There has to be some consequences, and they have to be afraid and know what they're doing, that if they do that, they are certainly going to get caught and they can go to jail.
Democrat May Flexner dismissed Republican concerns, saying that these measures actually look at the details and structure of our election system and make meaningful changes to stop those bad actors who do disenfranchise some voters without disenfranchising all 2.1 million voters.
Listen, Tom, unfortunately, in the state of Connecticut, it is a lot easier to disenfranchise voters than it is to say. So you get a pass on that.
I don't know. I look that up.
I think the biggest thing for me is this insistence by the Democrats that advocating to put security cameras on the ballot boxes is somehow going to, on the drop boxes, excuse me, is somehow going to stop bad actors. You guys, we have video footage of the ballots being stuffed in the drop boxes in Bridgeport multiple times, and that did not deter anyone. So we're kidding ourselves if we actually think that that's going to be a deterrent. Also, who's going to review the footage? How often? How long is it kept? Is that in the statute? I mean, who's going to pay for it?
Well, Joe has the answers here.
I don't know that I have all the answers, but look, it really comes down to the election enforcement and getting those processed quicker. There's a 2-year backlog. Whatever money we need to send towards it, we need to send it now. We cannot have these things lingering out. You're right, the videotape was there. But what they're proposing are common sense things. You have to be careful. There's a constitutional right to exercise the vote, right? The absentee ballot is one of them. You put too onerous restrictions on it, it's going to get thrown out by the court anyways. I think it's a balance, but it comes down to, and I agree with you, the enforcement.
Yeah, I think, I watched actually the Republican press conference, and this probably wasn't on anyone's bingo card, but Rob Sampson did a very good job, I think, explaining how, one, we're not criticizing the proposals of the Democrats. There are some good ones. They're simply not going far enough to protect it. And I think to Liz's point, we had a camera in Bridgeport. That didn't do anything to deter bad actors. So there is more that we can do that just what the Democrats offered. Not everything the Republicans offered. I think there's a better ground there.
No, I think that we can strengthen our election system. We can deter bad behavior without disenfranchising the voter. And I think that if you look at the bipartisan solutions that came out, we look into those. We put more resources behind the election enforcement process. We do continue to put video monitoring on the drop boxes, and then we scrutinize the ABs as they come in, but we don't take people's access away.
All right, guys, up next on Cap Report, some Connecticut lawmakers getting fed up with Israel and the ongoing assaults on Gaza following the death of 6 aid workers. We're going to discuss this with News 8's political contributor, my pal, Mike Cerulli. We get back. Do not go away.
Wow, we're a little feisty.
Connecticut Congresswoman Rosa DeLauro did not hold back last week about her feelings on the Israeli airstrike that killed 7 humanitarian aid workers in Gaza. DeLauro joining the chorus of voices in Washington who have denounced the Israeli government for the deaths of World Central Kitchen staff. Take a listen to what she had to say about that. Watch this.
I think the killing of humanitarian aid workers is shameful. It cannot be tolerated. I know Jose Andres, I know the World Central Kitchen. He is distributing millions of meals a day to starving people, to starving Palestinians in Gaza.
I'm joined by News 8's political contributor, Mike Cerulli. Mike, hey, you've been following the domestic political reaction to the Israeli-Hamas war. Let's focus on the Democrats here. You spoke with Rosa this week. She's banging the drum at the federal level. What are we seeing at the state level, huh?
Yeah, good morning, Tom. We're certainly seeing this conflict have an impact on politics right here in Connecticut. We have talked about those protests that have occasionally disrupted top leaders for months now. Now we're actually seeing state lawmakers speak out. State Senator Saud Anwar was the first Connecticut legislator to publicly issue a letter late last month calling for a permanent ceasefire in the conflict. Like Rosa DeLauro, Senator Anwar has emphasized that need for immediate humanitarian support. Interestingly, Anwar did not sign a separate letter that was signed by more than a dozen legislators also calling for a ceasefire. That letter, led by State Representative Miriam Khan. Khan is really viewed as a leader in the Muslim community in Connecticut. She recently hosted a Ramadan celebration at the state capitol that drew prominent Muslim leaders from around the state, and she's clearly viewed by the colleagues that joined her on that letter as well.
So, Mike, so 2 different letters. What do they actually hope to accomplish with all these letters?
Yeah, Tom, I believe that's really the $1,000,000 question here. We could ask the same about the ceasefire resolutions that have been passed by cities like Bridgeport and Windsor. You know, the tangible policy levers here are sort of limited when we're talking about state and local officials. I think the key here to understand is that these lawmakers, they're responding to outcry from within their communities. We saw that expressed, as you discussed, at the polls last week, and these letters really seem to be about articulating a public stance, taking a stand on what has essentially become a core moral question for many members of the Democratic coalition.
Okay, Mike, so we talked about the results of the primary. 11% and change is respectful, but nowhere close to a majority. If you're a Democratic official, is this a top issue for your base?
Yeah, I think in an election year, every community that has traditionally been counted as part of the Democratic coalition is going to matter. We saw that protest vote in Wisconsin actually exceed Biden's 2020 margin of victory over Trump. So this issue looms over the presidential election. Here in Connecticut, Democrats are, of course, much more secure electorally, but it will still be interesting to watch how top Democrats are received as they get out in public more to the lead up to the election.
Mike, we'll keep an eye on it. I'm sure you will too. The great Mike Cerulli, thanks for having you with us. Thanks for joining us.
Good to be here, Tom.
Up next on Cap Report, the effort to get rid of Connecticut's car tax, good luck with that, doesn't even get a vote in the committee. Let's look, we look at the effort. We get back. Do not go away. That's it. You guys know what? Efforts to get rid of Connecticut's tax on automobiles ran out of gas in committee last week. Didn't even get a vote. Wasn't the first time, might not be the last either. The bill has been battered around for years. It would have been adjusted property tax assessments to make up for the lost revenue. It was a non-starter for many lawmakers. Here's sound from both sides of the issue. Watch this.
On its face, it sounds like a great idea, and legislators have talked about this for a number of years, eliminating this tax, because it is egregious. However, now homes are going to be taxed at a higher assessment rate, so it could be as high as 90%. Right now, they're taxed at 70%, so you could potentially see a 20% increase, which would offset any savings you would see on the cars.
This is regressive, complicated, unfair tax, and we try to make fair and progressive and help everyone.
Well, Mayor, I'm sure you'd like to see car tax revenue gone from the Bloomfield coffers, huh?
Well, hang on here.
Hang on.
Let's address the income tax, property tax first. But, look, the whole property tax structure in Connecticut needs to be reformed. Okay, let's start there. And it is complicated, as Senator MD just alluded to. We use that at the local level to, again, balance our budgets and make sure that our families and our homeowners and our commercial revenue sources stay whole. And so can we look at different options to phase out over time? Maybe, but let's be careful, as we move into that, because we are going to shift the burden to homeowners, and they cannot afford that right now. So we have to be very careful, especially when the state is implementing or doing their normal reval next year. So taxes are already going to go up. So we have to find sustainable tax revenue sources to supplement the car tax if we're really going to be serious about it. It's not going to happen overnight. It should be looked at as an incremental, phased-in approach, if any, and then we'll take it from there.
Yeah, I remember back when Governor Rell was in office, she took this on and really wanted to implement removing the car tax, and they talked about a lot of ideas, car tax Charlie being one of my favorites, and a way to try and go sell this to the public. Shout out to the governor's team. I think the issue here is if Governor Rell, with 72% approval rating and a full, complete Democrat legislature then, not too dissimilar from our incumbent governor now, couldn't get it done, I don't think there's a will in the legislature to actually get it done. And to your point, a report just came out, Connecticut residents pay the second highest property tax in the country at about $8,022 per family. And that, consider that in many other states, they don't have an income tax. They don't have that. Property tax is in a lot of ways the way that they get revenue from their residents. So, something has to be done, and it does need to be holistic.
Right, Joe, how does it happen?
Look, I'm going to say it to like you say it to a kid. You did it to yourself. And this is what the municipalities are finding. And I've said it for years. Shared services. We have police departments in every town. We have animal controls. We have all these services cost money. The municipalities have to rely on the places they can raise money. They know they can't trust the state to send them the money and hope they get it back. So what do? They have the car tax. They have the property tax. Until we look at what we do as a state, we're never going to solve it. We got rid of the county structure. Other states use it very effectively for the shared services items. There's a county tax, but everybody wants local control. You can't have local control without any money. That's the problem.
Good luck getting county government back. Here's an idea. What if we exempt every homeowner having one car? That way, if it's your only car and you need it, you don't have to pay the tax, but people have 3, 4, 5 cars, they got to pay taxes on all the other. Maybe there's a middle ground there.
Wow.
There's a guy.
But we've been talking about getting rid of this since Jody Rell, and I just have to laugh. We can't get rid of the car tax, yet so many people in my party wanted to get rid of the income tax.
Okay. We're going to ask Eric Simmons in the break if he wants to regionalize his football program with New Britain.
Yes, I think he is.
Yes. I'm the coach. Next on Cap Report, we talk about Yukon Huskies mascot Rebecca Lobo and Albany, New York. It's an all Yukon fourth block. When we get back, don't go away.
I'll take that team.
Well, when both the UConn men and women headed to their Final Fours last week, they were without a critical team member who opted out from making the trip to Phoenix or Cleveland. Jonathan, the 15th, chose to sit and stay, according to a post on X. Jonathan says he's not ready to make the cross-country flight just yet, and due to the weather in Cleveland, he's uncertain about how to maintain his exercise regimen. Jonathan adding, he's going to be focused on serving the needs of the Husky fans on the store's campus. I don't blame him. I'm not sure I can even handle a 5-hour flight to Phoenix these days. Hey, you know, I get surly on this. I think there's more to the story. I hear he has a biting issue. It's a biting issue.
No. This is not a Biden dog.
No. Commander.
Dave Benedict, the UConn AD, said on Twitter, only one mascot per team allowed.
Well,
That's what's going on.
I heard Jonathan has to stay there because he has the biting problem to keep the crowds at bay when we win it all.
All right, guys. So, hey, Rebecca Lobo remains a legend in stores, but people probably won't be buying her a drink in Albany, New York anytime soon. During the Elite Eight, Lobo was doing some color commentary for ESPN when she said, oh, by the way, good luck finding something to do in Albany, when referencing a conversation she had with Caitlin Clark's parents. Well, people of Albany didn't like that, according to the New York Post. The owner of the War Room Tavern, love that name, called for bars and restaurants to cancel their subscriptions to ESPN. Others demanded apologies from Lobo. Well, she did walk it back on X, saying, hey, I didn't intend to throw shade towards the capital city, guys, huh? Albany, New York.
As soon as I heard her say it, I was like, oh, she's going to be
So think about this intelligence. The sports bar wants to cancel ESPN.
Yeah,
there you go.
Reality is it's a capital city. They go to sleep at night. It's the reality.
And they do have more corruption than Hartford.
Right. That's going to do it for this week. I'm Tom Dudchik, for the mayor, the coach, Lizzie, Johnny Mack, and Tom Dudchik. I'll see you next week.
I just wanted to do that once.